Hey everybody, welcome to the School of Social Value. I am your host, Alan, your professor for the day. And today we are talking about the story of good versus evil and how we can overcome evil in this generation. Essentially, what I believe, I'll just lay it out for you, is that the exploitation that has existed in humankind is something that was not ever going to be the end of the story. Long and the short of it is, I kind of feel like this is the human story. Our demons of our worst nature are manifesting in our exploiting one another and taking advantage of each other. But the story of human existence isn't just about our demons. It's not about the things that make us bad and evil. It's about the things that we overcome and the things that we learn in the process of life. And it's not only true personally in our own experience, but it's also true collectively, societally. If it's not evident with our history of freeing the slaves and giving women the right to vote and the civil rights movement and all of this progress that has taken place, those were part of a story that had to happen. They were part of an inevitable human story where those of us who were exploited came to the place of saying we have to stop this exploitation as well as exploiting our neighbors. And so, people like Martin Luther King Jr. would come around. And of course, not only was he a huge civil rights activist, but in the last year of his life, before he was murdered, really assassinated, probably by these evil people that we're talking about, he was talking about economic inequality. It wasn't just racial inequality in that last year. He started to truly ramp up his messaging because he saw firsthand that it wasn't enough for black people to gain an equal footing in terms of status in society. They also had an economic disparity and one that had to be remedied. And so he was advocating for things like universal basic income, and he had all these great ideas. He was a phenomenal speaker, leader, organizer, and he made his mark on history. But he was murdered, and now his work is on us. And the mission that he had to create a world where it's not based on the family you're born into or the color of your skin, but based on the content of your character. That is the entire impetus of the School of Social Value, of the social value movement, of creating a new type of economics that values the motive within each of us. Martin Luther King Jr.'s motive was to serve mankind. My motive is to serve mankind. I'm not here to build personal wealth. The question becomes, what is your motive? Are you going to start a business one day? What is the reason you're starting that business? Why are you starting it? I don't want to demonize making money. We all need to make money. We need to pay bills. And more importantly, we have goals and desires to own a home and to have a certain type of car. There's nothing wrong about any of this. Once it gets to that point, though, like I keep mentioning, where you're buying a yacht for $50 million and there's all these people starving and suffering, that's where it becomes unconscionable. And in terms of how we take back this world and how we uproot evil from this world, the truth of the matter is it comes from our economics. And so I just want to put an emphasis really quickly on how these evil practitioners have kept us really not using our power. Because the fact of the matter is, it is the advertising and the commercials and the propaganda that we are constantly inundated with that makes us consumers. That's how they see us. The people who are making decisions based on economics right now in the highest level of politics, they're in many senses just wanting to make sure that we're still going to play our vital role for them to make their money, which is we're going to consume when all is said and done. And our opportunity is to say no. We have a new alternative. We are creating a new safe haven, an economy within the broader American economy. This is an economy of social value. It's an economy where we can migrate to. It's almost like a great migration, right? We can take all of our consumer spending and refuse to spend it with companies who are exploiting us. We can take all of our labor and refuse to contribute it to them, and we can take all of our investment and do it. When we do that, when we take that social value pledge, we can upend them from power without even taking away everything from them. And the reason for that is actually being seen right now as we speak. Why is it that the Fed injected billions of dollars into cheap money and financing for these big corporations? And it is because every time they saw the stock market take a dip, they were just pulling on the only levers they could to try to get it to course correct, to try to get it to not completely collapse. But what happens in the case of economics and in terms of investment, and we see this, is when it hits its peak, people sell, and they're not going to stop selling if it continues to plummet. Why would they want to be caught with it at 0 when they could sell it at 50 and it might have started at 100? And that's where their Achilles heel is, and that is where our strength is. You see, when you just crunch the numbers and you say, hey, let's take all progressive supporters of Bernie Sanders or even any progressives out there, and we no longer consume in that standard economy because us progressives are supposed to be labor advocates, and then we redirect our consumption and investment in labor into labor-based social value enterprises that are not looking to concentrate wealth and create super rich people as a byproduct of commerce, as a byproduct of business. And the power that we can wield is only not wielded for 2 reasons. One, yes, they're constantly brainwashing us and inundating us with advertising to turn us into consumers. But 2, they have divided us. They have separated us. Because if we were to act in unison, if we were to act in concert, they would be completely outclassed. They would be completely outmatched, and they would be unable to stop what it is that we want. And in that sense, if 3 million consumers decided to take this pledge and create a new economy and not spend their money in the broader economy, but always look to purchase, invest, and labor social value, then what you would find is that the other companies would lose that corresponding number of consumers, the corresponding number of investors, the corresponding number of employees. And as a result, it would just change it by a little bit, right? Instead of being a $100 stock price, it might drop it down to 90 bucks, right? And you can kind of think about that macro sense, not just within a company, but maybe the entire NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, or other trading sites. They would end up seeing that type of decline, and they would never be recovered. As a matter of fact, I don't think 3 million people would be the end of our funneling and migration into this new economy. I think it'd be the middle point, because eventually everyone should be realizing that if it's for their own best interest, this is how they should be consuming, investing, and laboring. It is really not good for our world for us to be investing in the public markets. I mean, let's just stop right there, and let's make sure that anyone watching this video takes every fucking dime they have in the public market and takes it out and puts it into the private market, takes it and puts it into conscious companies. That is going to collapse them without much extra effort. But if outside of the investment piece, the consumer piece is a huge Achilles heel as well. So with all that being said, I've repeated it so many times, so this should not be new to any followers of this content, but it does require reiteration. We are the ones in control. We are the ones who have the power, and the only thing stopping us from claiming that power is not connecting and not gathering together and using our multiplicity, our mass, our huge numbers to influence the marketplace. Not the political market, the economic market. And that is, of course, why we're talking about participatory economic activism. The invitation is to become an owner, to become a contributor into FruitCraft so that we can leverage the assets that FruitCraft has to grow across the country so that we can become a massive company and take all of our profits and use it to launch thousands and thousands and thousands of other businesses modeled after the same way as we are, so that we can create an economy that works for everyone and displace those who are in power, who are exploiting us, and who have no concern for our well-being, our happiness, or for our country. With that in mind, let's wrap up this video. Until the next series, remember to do good and to share with others. Cheers.